It was supposed to be just another talk show interview. Ricky Gervais, one of the sharpest comedians alive, strode onto PiersMorgan's set, expecting the usual. A few laughs, some banter about his latest comedy special, maybe a plug for his next project. He'd done hundreds of these. Piece of cake. But what unfolded that night was anything but routine. In just 34 seconds, a casual chat spiraled into one of the most explosive moments in talk show history, ending with a guest tossed off the set in front of millions. PiersMorgan sat across from Ricky, that familiar smirk plastered on his face, already plotting his next interruption. Ricky, unfazed, had faced tougher crowds. He'd roasted Hollywood's elite at award shows and walked away grinning. A talk show host? Child's play. The interview kicked off smoothly. Piers lobbed soft questions about Ricky's career and his take on cancel culture. Ricky answered with his signature mix of wit and brutal honesty, earning chuckles from the audience. Everything was on track, until Piers did what Piers does best. He pushed. His style was to ask a question, then steamroll the answer, always chasing dominance. "You know your problem, Ricky?" Piers leaned forward, voice dripping with condescension. "You think you're the smartest guy in the room." Ricky let out a deep, genuine laugh. The irony was too rich. Here was PiersMorgan, a man who'd built a career interrupting his own guests, accusing someone else of arrogance. "That's a good one, mate," Ricky fired back, still smiling. "You've made a living telling people what to think." The audience let out a collective ooh, the sound of a verbal dart hitting the bullseye. Piers' jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. He wasn't used to taking hits. "I'm a journalist," he snapped, voice rising. "I ask tough questions. I hold people accountable." Ricky nodded, mock serious. "Right. How'd that go at that tabloid you ran? You know, before the phone hacking mess." The studio went pin drop silent. Ricky had just plunged a knife into Piers' sorest spot, referencing the scandal that had shadowed his career. It wasn't a cheap shot, it was surgical. Piers squirmed, his composure cracking. "We're not talking about that," Piers shot back, trying to wrestle control. "This is about your comedy." "No, mate," Ricky said, cool as ice. "You brought up accountability. Let's talk about journalists hacking phones, invading lives. Let's go there." Piers' face flushed crimson. He was flailing. "That's irrelevant," he barked, voice louder now. "It's got everything to do with it," Ricky countered. "You play the moral judge, but your own record's shaky. You dish it out, but can't take it." The audience was frozen, the playful vibe now a high-stakes duel. Piers gripped his chair, fuming. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said through gritted teeth. Ricky leaned back, unfazed. "I know exactly what I'm talking about. And so does everyone watching. That's what gets under your skin. Not that I'm saying it, but that it's true." That was the moment Piers broke. He shot to his feet, startling the studio. "I won't be disrespected on my own show," he roared, jabbing a trembling finger at Ricky. Ricky stayed seated, looking up with a calm, almost pitying expression. "Mate," he said softly, "I haven't disrespected you. I just won't pretend you're something you're not. Big difference." That pushed Piers over the edge. He spun to someone off camera, making a sharp gesture. "Get him out of here," he bellowed. "Get him off my set now." Two producers scurried on, looking lost, glancing between Piers and Ricky. This was live TV, with millions watching. Kicking a guest off mid-show? Unprecedented. "I said get him out," Piers shouted again. Ricky rose slowly, brushing off his jacket, cool as ever. He looked amused, like he'd seen this coming. "Well," he said, turning to the camera, "guess we know who the real snowflake is, don't we?" The audience erupted. Some laughing, some gasping, a few clapping. Chaos. Piers stood there, red-faced, as his show imploded. Ricky strolled toward the exit, taking his time, like he was on a Sunday walk. "Thanks for the chat, Piers," he called back, voice thick with sarcasm. "Real delight." And then he was gone. Piers sank into his chair, running a hand through his hair, trying to pull himself together. "Well," he muttered, voice shaky. "That was unfortunate. Rickygervais, ladies and gentlemen, a man who can't handle a real conversation." But no one bought it. The audience, the viewers at home. They'd seen who cracked, who shouted, who couldn't take the heat. Piers tried to pivot to some fluff segment about celebrity gossip, but the show was dead in the water. Rewind to the start, and the red flags were there. When Ricky walked out, Piers greeted him with forced charm. Handshake, smile, but something was off. Maybe Piers knew Ricky wouldn't roll over. Maybe he resented Ricky's sharper wit, his bigger following. Whatever it was, Piers came in hungry to dominate, and that's where it all went wrong. When you're out to win, you stop listening. You just wait for your shot to pounce. The early questions were softballs. Ricky knocked them out with easy jokes, getting laughs. Piers laughed too, but it was that hollow TV host chuckle, more about filling air than actual amusement. Then came the trap. Do you ever worry your comedy crosses lines that shouldn't be crossed? It was meant to corner Ricky, put him on the defensive. Ricky didn't blink. No, he said flatly. I don't worry about that. Piers raised an eyebrow, expecting more. That's it? Just no? What else do you want? Ricky replied. I'm thoughtful about my jokes, but worry? Nah. I know my line. If others don't get it. So you don't care if you offend people? Piers asked, sensing blood. I didn't say that, Ricky clarified. I care about feelings. I'm not a sociopath. But I'm not letting the touchiest person in the room dictate what's funny. Piers, going for the moral high ground, insisted some topics were too serious to joke about. Like what? Ricky challenged. You don't get to draw the line. Nobody does. Comedy's about nuance, and you want it black and white because that's easier to control. The audience clapped, sensing Piers was slipping. His annoyance showed, a twitch in his jaw, a quick glance at the crowd. I'm not trying to control anything, Piers said, defensive. Name one thing that's off limits, Ricky pushed. Piers hesitated, then said, mocking disability is cruel. Sure, Ricky nodded. If you're mocking to hurt, that's cruel. But what about joking about how society treats disability? Challenging norms? That off limits too. It depends, Piers admitted, floundering. Exactly, Ricky said, pointing. Context matters. Attention metteurs. You can't just ban topics because you want to play referee. Piers was unraveling, pacing now. I find it fascinating, he sneered, that you lecture me about control, when you block people on social media for disagreeing with you. Ricky laughed again. Blocking someone on Twitter isn't censorship, mate. It's curating my day. I don't need to hear from every troll. You block people too, how's that different? Piers had no comeback, caught in his own contradiction. The audience was Ricky's now nodding, murmuring support. Then Piers made his fatal move. The difference, he said, voice cold, is that I actually matter. I'm a journalist. I've broken stories, interviewed world leaders. You're just a comedian. The studio went dead quiet. The arrogance was jaw-dropping. Ricky sat still, then smiled, a smile that said, you just buried yourself. You think journalism's more valuable than comedy, Ricky said, voice low. It is, Piers snapped. Journalism is truth. Comedy's just entertainment. Truth? Ricky repeated, incredulous. Let's talk about your truth. The wrong stories you've run, the retractions, the apologies. When I bomb a joke, it's just a bad joke. When you screw up, lives get hurt. Piers was trembling with rage. How dare you come on my show and speak to me like this? How dare I? Ricky stood facing him. You invited me. You threw insults. You said I don't matter. Don't cry when I hit back. That's when Piers lost it, calling for the producers, demanding Ricky's exit. As Ricky walked off, he turned to the audience. You saw this, right? He couldn't handle a real challenge, so he's tossing me out. Next time he preaches free speech, remember this. Piers stood in the ruins of his own ego, his show in tatters. He tried to move on, but the damage was done. The camera caught his flushed face, his shaky hands, as he realized he'd been outmatched. The audience, the world, had seen it all.